We did have Mr. O'Connor, who was running for one of the seats. He was unable to attend. He's away. And on the Democratic side, we have Mr. Gonzalez, who had some family business. They did both get in touch with me, and they send their regrets. We do have Mr. Fenley here tonight, and incumbent Trish Bergin here tonight. I don't know which one of you want to start. Oh, sorry.
Ladies first.
Ladies first. And then we only have about 3 questions for both of you. Sure. So you have a 3-minute opening? Oh, sorry about that. Sure. Look for my waving red envelope, yes. And then you'll have a minute after that. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Trish Bergin Whitebrook. I'm your councilwoman in the town of Islip. I've been your councilwoman for the past 8 years. If elected this time around, it would be my final term serving you here in the town of Islip. The 8 years went very quickly. I grew up in Ronkonkoma. I went to Connecticut High School. I attended junior high school here in this building. So yes, I am a T-bird. I went to school with many of your children. I went to school with many of you. My track coach is here, Bill Waring. So I sort of homegrown. Lake Ronkonkoma is very important to me. This entire community is very important to me. Many of you know that I spent 20 years as a broadcaster. I was a news anchor and a news reporter for Channel 12 News here on Long Island, as well as CBS News in New York, and then back to News 12, and then back to CBS, and then back to News 12, but that's the industry that I was in. So I did that for 20 years, and then came here to work for my community. Somebody had asked me, we'd really like somebody with an outspoken voice who knows the issues on Long Island. Would you please kindly, now that you've retired from television, consider running for office? I was absolutely flattered. I said, of course I will. I hope everybody will vote for me. I've enjoyed a successful run in the town of Islip. For the last 8 years, I have tackled different initiatives, including shrinking government. We shut down an entire department that saved us millions of dollars. It was a drug and alcohol counseling program, and it's funny when you walk into government after having been in a world of private sector, and you say, why are we in this business? Why are we doing drug and alcohol counseling here? So there are so many great not-for-profit programs for drug and alcohol counseling, but for some reason we were doing it at the town of Islip, and we felt that we could do it more effectively without a cost to taxpayers through the not-for-profit industries that service this community so much better than we were able to do. We actually, when I got there, I realized we had folks who were dealing with chemical dependency issues working out of a building in the evening time, at the same time in the same building, utilizing the same bathroom facilities as children who were taking dance lessons and little children who were playing basketball after school. So I said, this whole thing just doesn't make any sense, so let's close it down. We got all of the employees who were working at the town of Islip, new jobs at the not-for-profits, took all of that expense. I believe it was around $2 or $3 million. We saved taxpayers. We continue to service the folks who needed assistance through all the not-for-profits. So that was sort of one of the initiatives that when I walked in the door I said, something here just isn't making sense to me. So we took care of that. We also had a tremendous amount of surplus government property that was underutilized. Government property is not on the tax rolls, we all know that, right? So there was large parcels of land owned by the town of Islip, not on the tax rolls, underutilized. I said, let's put it all on the market. So we got a team of employees. We assessed all of the properties that we owned. We came up with almost $10 million worth of land that we sold, put back on the tax rolls. Developers came in, they developed it, they utilized it, they're now paying taxes. So these are some of the initiatives that I've done since getting into office.
Thank you, Trish.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Jason Fenley. Thank you to the board and everybody for coming. It's a pleasure to be here. I'll give you a little bit of my background and I'll tell you why I'm actually running for town council. So I grew up in Babylon, went to West Babylon schools. I went away for a while to college, lived in Colorado for about 5 or 6 years. Met my wife about 7 or 8 years ago and got married, and I live in Brightwaters. I've been there for 5 years. I am an attorney. I own my own law practice. Prior to that, I was at a very large firm in New York City practicing litigation, specifically in the areas of construction and public infrastructure, having worked on some of the largest infrastructure projects in New York, including East Side Access, which is Long Island Railroad to Grand Central, the new Tappan Zee Bridge, One World Trade Center, and a bunch of other projects, both public and private. In addition to being an attorney, I also have an MBA in public finance and trained in that area. But really the main reason why I'm here, you don't care about my background that much, is why am I running? It's really 4 reasons. I have a 4-year-old little boy, and I have 3 2-year-old boys. That's right, I have triplets. You can look at my palm card, it's a great picture. So what does that mean? What am I getting at? The future. I'm concerned about the future of Long Island. And the county candidates touched on this a little bit, but you know, I'm 40 years old, similar to Joe's generation, and a lot of our cohorts have left, right? And they continue to leave. And the demographics on Long Island continue to change. Every year we get a little bit older and a little bit older, and we erode our future tax base more and more and more. How do we change that? 2 ways to change that. The first way, affordability. And that starts at all levels of government, the town, the county, the state, and the federal government. We all need to find a way for it to be cheaper to live here. And that starts with making government more efficient. Essentially, the board are managers, right? They're managing a $220 million budget. And Ms. Bergin mentioned all her efforts to reduce spending. They're still raising taxes. The town taxes have gone up 65% in the last 5 years. That is untenable. Nobody's going to stay here if we can't get spending in control. I don't want to stay here. That's why I'm running. We have to change it. Second thing is, we need to grow the economy. A lot of the growing of the economy at this point is revolved around development. We touched on that before with transit-oriented development. We need to grow that, continue the revitalization of our downtowns, what we've seen in places like Bayshore, outside of Islip, yes, but Patchogue, been wildly successful. What that does is twofold. It keeps young people here, and it increases our housing stock, and it makes us more attractive to businesses. But no business is moving here with the current tax system. It's untenable. So that's why I'm running for public office. I want to serve the community, I want to serve Long Island, I want to serve Islip, and think about the future, and rein in spending, and change things. We need to think about the future, and that's what I'm really committed about.
We have only three questions for you guys tonight, but these are close to us, since you guys are our closest government. So the first question is probably a biggie right now. The town has received zoning applications for the old Island Hills Golf Course. What is your opinion of the development proposed? Do you feel we should continue developing apartment-style housing? Why or why not? And I'll let you go first because you...
So I was just mentioning about development, right? So Island Hills project is not transit-oriented. It's almost 2 miles from the Sayville train station. Additionally, it's going to cause a huge uptick in traffic, which is my main concern with the project. The developer has proposed 1,371 units in that project. Their own literature suggests that each unit is estimated to have 1.75 cars. That's 2,400 cars. I checked on Google this afternoon. The entrance to that golf course is exactly 4 miles east of the Oakdale Merge on Sunrise Highway. I'm sure that impacts many of you, your husbands, your wives, your children. I used to commute that way for a little while. It added at least 20 minutes each way. Now throw 2,500 more cars on that. That is wildly inappropriate. And look, I'm for development. I'm for smart development, downtown revitalizations, transit-oriented, but adding 2,500 cars and 1,300 apartments to what essentially is a single-family neighborhood is just not tenable at this point.
I have to be a little bit careful, and I have to explain this to the audience. If I say how I'm going to vote on an application, which is probably going to come before me in the next 2 years, I could trigger what's called an Article 78 lawsuit, where the developer can sue the town of Islip, meaning all of us residents would have to foot that bill. So I just have to be very careful in how I answer this question. The current application, if this was a application, let's say a hypothetical application that was coming into my backyard, I would be out of my mind over it. 1,375 apartments. There's no way the streets around that neighborhood would be able to support that. The current application, I can't imagine would even pass a traffic study. When this developer came in with this project, we all looked at it, we're like, this is really big. So I don't honestly think that the current proposal is going to be what eventually comes before the town board to be voted on. I think there will be many, many changes. There ought to be. So I hope I've answered it in a responsible way that you all understand how I feel about it. There's no way that the traffic generated, that the streets around that area are going to be able to support it. I don't know what the impacts are going to also be on the Connecticut School District, because the kids would be going here. So it's currently zoned, and just so you understand the way the process works, that application will go before the planning board. The planning board will make a recommendation to us. That body is not a body that makes a decision. They just make a recommendation to the town board, so it's sort of like another set of eyes looking at the project. They'll make a recommendation to us on whether we should approve it or deny it, and then it will come before us, the town board, and then the town board will make their decision. But if this project, or a hypothetical project of this magnitude, was coming to my backyard, I live in East Islip now, I would be out of my mind.
We'll answer this one first now. If elected, re-elected, how will you help your constituents in the various hamlets throughout Islip? Oftentimes, residents of Ronkonkoma feel ignored by the town of Islip. So how specifically do you think you can help us here in Ronkonkoma?
Okay. So recently, I'll give you an example, we had a bonding resolution where we were going to spend money in Bay Shore at the marina, and myself and another council person said, wait a second, we've spent a lot of money in Bay Shore over the last couple of years. Let's start looking at some other projects that we want to see done in Bayport, Sayville, Holbrook, and Ronkonkoma. Thank you. And so the bonding resolution to do major projects requires 4 votes. So this bonding resolution failed because it only got 3 votes, and myself and the other council person said, we're not voting for this because you're not evenly distributing money throughout the entire town. And so everybody had to go back to the drawing board. We brought back some of the proposals that we'd like to see. I'd like to see more work done at Lake Ronkonkoma. And so we'll see if we can change the tide of where money is distributed, because it seems like an awful lot of it goes to Bay Shore, and I'm kind of, frankly, personally, I'm tired of seeing that happen.
So I'm a resident of Brightwaters. I work in Bay Shore, so I see firsthand that Bay Shore does seem to get a disproportionate amount of the funding from the town in terms of projects and things like that. One of the ways you could fix that is to do districts. Many towns, including Brookhaven, has council districts, right? So we have 4 council persons, but they're all at large. So essentially, what we've got is really representation that's kind of skewed. It doesn't really represent the whole town. Where if you broke it into districts similar to the county level, you could have representatives represent each area, which could certainly improve kind of representation in the town board. In terms of my plan when I'm elected on November 7th, is I want to come to meetings like this in every hamlet and just forge relationships with people. Everybody, I was talking to somebody this afternoon, we were talking about Sayville, and people talk about Sayville as if it's a village, even though technically it's not a village. They reference things like, oh, I was in Sayville Village today. Because each little area feels like they're a little village, right? And that's kind of the sentiment. That's what Long Island's all about, we're these little towns, you know? I lived out of state, and people that knew Long Island a little bit used to reference that and go, you guys are funny with your towns. And I thought, no, you're funny because you're not like that. That we take pride where we live. And what I want to do is, as a public servant, is learn what each community, their issue is, and help them solve it. That's the idea. That's the whole point of why I'm doing this. Make things better. That's the idea.
And then one last question for you guys, and then you guys can rebut each other or sum up, or both. So vacant or zombie homes are an ongoing issue in our community and communities all over. At the town council level, what do you think you can do to improve the situation? Do you agree, this is a multi-part question, so do you agree or disagree with the proposed kind of Brookhaven solution called Vacant to Vets, partnering with the Long Island Housing Partnership and the Long Island Builders Institute to turn them into affordable housing? If you need me to repeat that, let me know. So I'm going to start with him because you started before.
So one of the big problems with zombie homes and things like that is the foreclosure issue and the glut in the court system. I'm an attorney. I actually work a little bit in the foreclosure space a little bit, so I understand that. Well, that's not in the town's purview. Working with our county legislators to kind of create a streamlined process for that could certainly help out on those issues. And that's a lot of what we can do in terms of being on the town council, is work with different governments, work with different areas, different municipalities and things like that to streamline processes. In terms of specifically the proposal to use the homes for veterans, one, I'd just like to point to my dad here. My dad is here. He is a Vietnam veteran. I am for anything that helps out veterans. I don't care anything we can do to help veterans, I'm for. I don't care how much it costs. I'll write that check. And you can tell anybody, I can put that all over Facebook that I'm going to spend your money. I don't care. Veterans deserve it. So in terms of the zombie homes, this is a very difficult issue. And I know Trish can probably attest to this, the councilwoman, that the issue is very, very difficult. Because one, if you take them over, it costs a big burden for the town and something else on their payroll, the rolls, which isn't something the town wants to do. It's very difficult. But essentially, to have some kind of private-public partnership like that is certainly something that would be invited.
You're right, that is a very complicated issue when you go into the deeds and foreclosures and what's owed to the bank, and sometimes some of these zombie homes will linger for years. So we stepped it up at the town of Islip over the last, I would say probably 3 years, where we do these board of cleanup resolutions where we're able to come in and at least board up the house, because I have a zombie house right next door to my house, and the kids go in there and they throw parties and they light fires and they bring in electricity from generators. I can't even tell you the amount of times we've had to call the cops on it. So I completely agonize with anybody who has a zombie house right next door to them. It is a very complicated issue, but what we've done at the town of Islip is we have stepped it up a notch. We are going through more board of cleanup resolutions than we have ever done in the past. So meaning that it comes before the town board. We have done probably 300 in the last year, whereas when I first took office, we were doing about 10 or 12. So we send out a contractor, he boards up the windows to close the house so that vagrants can't go in, animals, raccoons can't move in, teenagers can't throw parties, and then we also go back every week, and the town employees and the town outside contractors will mow the lawn just to try to keep any kind of rodent infestation down, and to try to keep it so that it looks at least halfway presentable and is not a safety concern for the houses in the area. So we've definitely taken on that initiative, and that doesn't end up on your tax rolls. We then put a lien against the property so that when it is picked up or whenever it is sold, the new buyer or the past buyer will have to pick up the tab and pay the taxpayers, pay the town back for the money that we laid out for that. Any time that we have an opportunity to get possession of a house, we have a CDA, Community Development Agency, within the town of Islip, and we do bring in the Long Island Housing Partnership. We renovate these houses, and we do put them back out on the market to folks who join a lottery and usually are a lower income family looking for a place to live. We do give preferential treatment to veterans, people who have served our country. So we do have a similar model to Brookhaven, and if we can expand on that, I'm certainly all for that.
to do your closing button. Thank you.
So I just want to go back to one thing the councilwoman said in her opening about the drug and counseling. So that program that Islip ended, it was quickly picked up by the town of Babylon. So while I'm not saying that what she's saying is untrue, but another town right next door saw the value in it. And it's continued and it's been very successful there. I want to get back to about my qualifications for this job. And again, I've referred to the town board as a board of managers, essentially, right? Which is what it is. They're managing a $220 million budget. And my background in law and my experience in finance gives me kind of a special and unique ability to serve in a municipal role. And I look forward to doing that. Again, I urge you to pick up my palm card and look at a picture of my family, particularly my boys, because they're a lot better looking than I am. And I look forward to meeting all of you individually and serving you starting next year. Thank you very much.
Just to make a correction there for you, sir. The town of Babylon had a settlement program that we had that we closed down. They actually called me, Supervisor Schaefer called me and said, how did you do this? How did you make that work without interfering with anybody's recovery? I showed him my model, and he's going to do the same thing. So, I also wanted to let you know that any time that there was a vote to raise taxes, I have always voted no. I think you've seen many times on social media and as well in Newsday that I take on my own party members. I take on fellow Republicans when I see them spending too much, taxing too much, and I have no problem continuing to do that. I don't care what side of the aisle somebody's on. I don't care if they're Republican or if they're Democrat. If I feel that they are spending money inappropriately or raising taxes, I will call them out on it. Thank you.
All the candidates for coming out tonight. We appreciate them letting us hear their views on the issues. We will be sending out, like I said, the questions that we asked each of the candidates to the candidates themselves. I'm a little upset that we didn't get to talk to the district attorney. Some people sent in some really good questions. And please don't leave. We have some important business to go over and some news for you. So I'm going to turn this back over to Bruce.